Hi, good day. This is Mary Foden coming to you today to talk a little bit about some of the changes that we're experiencing under the new administration, to answer some of the questions that we've been receiving all day. We've been fielding hundreds and hundreds of phone calls, and we thought that we could just do a short video with other partners and associates here at Castro Foden to ease your mind and to answer some of the most frequent questions that we're receiving from our clients. We hope that this information will be helpful to you today.
Hello everybody, I'm John Mark LaRuzitzka, and I'm an attorney at Castro Foden. I'm here with attorney Mary Foden, and we're here today to discuss your rights as a non-citizen in the United States when you're interacting with law enforcement officials such as ICE or anyone else who is an official of the US government. So let's start with the basics. Why is it important for non-citizens to know their rights?
I think it's important to know your rights so you know what to do if you are in a stressful situation. A situation that makes you feel uncomfortable, it puts you under pressure. We're hoping that you can just know this information, have it accessible to you, and then take action that is going to be good for you and for your family.
So what should someone do if they are stopped by the police or ICE?
Well, if you're driving a car, you should certainly pull over. If the police tells you to do something, you're to do it. If you feel that they're coming to your home, they're knocking on your door, you have different rights, which may be to not open the door unless they have a warrant. You also have the right to remain silent. So this is a fundamental right that we have in the United States, that you do not need to answer information that may incriminate you or put you in danger. So if someone is asking you, what is your name and where you're from as you're walking down the street, you have the right to remain silent. Now, if you're driving a motor vehicle and the police officer is pulling you over because you have a broken taillight, they have the right to ask you for your driver's license, your registration, right? So I think it depends on the circumstances, but the number one thing to know is that you always have the right to remain silent, and you can use that right when you're engaging with ICE. And then if they come to your home, you do not need to open the door unless that person has a warrant. And even if you do open the door, you still have the right to remain silent. Please use that right. It is one of the foundations of our democracy and our judicial system in the United States.
Well, what if you are not in your home and you're out in public and a law enforcement officer approaches you and asks you for your documents? What should you do then?
The situation that we usually see is that the officer is usually coming directly for you because they're looking for you. And many times they actually call you out by name. So that's when you know they've come for me specifically. So they'll say, "Hey, Mary Foden," and then you turn around and you look, and then you know that they're coming directly for you. If you feel that it's an ICE stop and they're just asking you questions down the street, again, that's your right to remain silent. You don't have to answer their questions. Now, if they have reason to know who you are and they say, "We know that your name is this, we're detaining you today," they already have identified you, they've come to get you specifically. Generally, what we see is that the detentions are very targeted. It's been that way for a very long time because of limited resources. ICE wakes up every morning and they have a specific list of people that they are intending to detain that day. That's been the procedures for as long as I've been practicing law. The reality is that there may be other people that are detained in that process. If you are with someone who's getting detained, you should not resist or in any way try to stop the detention of that person, because it may also result in you being detained. And that may be done also to ensure the safety of the ICE officer who's making the detention. So just bear that in mind in those counters.
Okay. So what about if you are in your home? What if you're at home and someone knocks on the door and you see that it's a law enforcement officer, or an ICE officer? What should you do? You
do not need to open the door unless they have a warrant that authorizes them to come in. You can tell them to put it under the door or to leave it for you to review. You have the right to show that warrant to an attorney, but if they have a warrant that is signed for you to enter, I'd be shocked if they did have a warrant. So I would say that it is your right to remain in your home unless there is a warrant for them to enter your home.
What if they have a warrant or they don't have a warrant, but either way, somehow they make their way into your home? What should you do then?
Well, that would be an unlawful entry. Certainly, if you have family members who can later contact an attorney, that unlawful entry can be challenged. That would also require them to beat down your door. So I don't think that that's a very likely circumstance, but if something like that were to happen, it would certainly be a very serious violation.
Well, what if they don't force their way in, but you open the door or the door was unlocked and they managed to come in? What should you do then?
Unless you open the door, it would be an unauthorized entry. If you open the door for them and then you decided, I want to remain silent, that's your right to do so. So maybe you open the door and they come in and they say your name, you have the right just to remain silent. If you've made a mistake in opening the door, you still have your right to remain silent.
Okay. What about border checkpoints? What should people know about what's happening at the border?
Well, at the border, they're enforcing what's happening at the border is that they're trying to see if they can do expedited removal of people that are at border checkpoints. If you're traveling, are you referring to travel within the United States or coming into the United States for the first time?
Border checkpoints. So if you're trying to come into the United States and you're going to a checkpoint.
So if you're coming into the United States with a border checkpoint, you have to show that you have documents to enter. And if you have a fear that you're coming from your country because of a fear, that's your opportunity to express that fear to the officers so that they understand why you're coming to the United States. If you're coming to the United States with a visa, you have to have all of your evidence of your visa, where you're going to be staying in the United States, what you're planning to do. If you encounter a border checkpoint, or you're traveling, let's say, to Puerto Rico or off of the continental United States, or you're in an airport where you have less rights to roam freely, you're subject to heightened inspection in airports, we would recommend that you have evidence that you've been in the United States for the last 2 years. Because anyone who's been in the United States for less than 2 years, they could invoke expedited removal procedures against you. So if you're traveling through airports or you're approaching a checkpoint or something like that, you really should have evidence of your right to enter, your reason to enter, or as you're taking a flight outside the United States, or if you encounter ICE at an airport, you'll want to document that you've been here for the last 2 years so that you're not subjected to expedited removal.
So what if you are arrested or detained? What should you be thinking about at that time?
Well, if you're arrested or detained, I think, the reality is that the most people that are being arrested or detained are people that do have longstanding criminal arrests or criminal convictions. They probably were already on ICE's list for a long time, or this is a recent arrest. Or maybe they have an order of removal. I think one really important point that I'm going to just step away from your question for a second, if I may, is to discuss a very important settlement agreement that was made on January 16 of 2025. So just 2 weeks ago, there was an agreement that was entered that there will be separate protocol for people who are married to U.S. citizens and have orders of removal. And that is in the New England area, the immigration officials have agreed that they will reopen orders of removal for those that do not really present a national security risk. So we are currently converting all of our clients who may have orders of removal and are married to U.S. citizens to conform with this new settlement agreement. So if you are a client of the office and you have one of those cases with us, we are working on that to comply with the new agreement. And if you're not a client, you should immediately get advice on how you can position your case to take advantage of this very important agreement that has been made. It also means that you have additional protections from being detained if you're married to a U.S. citizen. So going back to your question, what should you do if you're detained? I think number one, the thing to remember is that this decision was made in advance. And so resisting or having any kind of violence or fleeing is contrary. It won't help your situation. It will only worsen it. And the best thing that you can do is have a family member contact an attorney to try to see if anything can be done. In that circumstance, I think that's the best that you can do because they've already made that decision to detain you when it was made. Sometimes if it's certainly not a national security risk, we can try to see if there's something that can be done to advocate for you. The best thing would be to have an attorney to help in that circumstance.
Okay, that's very good information. Now, what if you are, well, regardless of whether you're expecting to be arrested because you have a criminal background or you don't expect to be arrested, but you are being arrested and you're being asked questions or you're being asked to sign pieces of paper, what should you do? How should you react?
I would like to speak with my attorney. I'd like to remain silent. Please do not sign documents that you do not understand. Please do not sign documents that you do not feel comfortable signing. Some of those documents may say, I waive my rights to see a judge. It might say, I agree to my immediate deportation. So make sure that you're not signing documents that you don't understand. Ask to speak with your attorney. If you have a situation where you are afraid, it's your right to express that you're afraid to be returned to your country. So that's a very important provision that if you have a fear of returning to your country, it's your right to have that fear heard. So I think that's a very important thing to always remember is that you have to think clearly in these circumstances, you have to know your rights, and you have to express your desires to the officer.
Now, you mentioned earlier that a lot of people are worried, even if nothing has happened, if they are undocumented or even if they have some form of legal status, people are very worried about the recent changes to the U.S. immigration system. How should these people prepare?
That's a great question. One of the things that we're receiving a lot in terms of concerns is how do I prepare for my children? Connecticut has like a family preparedness plan. Make your desires known. If you're a single parent and you have criminal convictions or you have an order of removal and you think maybe you could be detained because you're not pursuing relief or because you don't have a way to stay here if you were to be detained, and you have children and you're a single parent, you should have some kind of a plan. Generally, you should know that immigration does not want to detain single parents because the children have nowhere to go. So generally, if you have a spouse, you know that your plan would be for the child to be with the spouse. But if you really don't have anyone to take care of the children, you should make a plan in that event, in case that event were to happen, you feel prepared. And I just think having your documents and knowing what your current situation is, and also being realistic about whether that's a valid, realistic concern, because many of the phone calls that we're receiving, people are panicked about being detained, yet they are not anywhere even remotely on the priority spectrum. So, simply being undocumented does not make you a priority in the United States. So I think, also being prepared also means being realistic and reasonable and not worrying about very, very, very unlikely events. So not everyone is a priority. I think you should be prepared if you are a priority. And our job as attorneys is to help you be prepared and also to put people at ease that are not priorities, have them be informed as to what their rights are, but we don't want to cause unnecessary concern and worry in our communities. It's already, as it is, there's a lot of worry, and we're really here to try to help you be oriented and know what your rights are and what could possibly happen to you.
Thank you. What about people who are in this country and they have already taken steps to address their status? For example, if someone has filed a petition for them, or if they have already filed an asylum application, should they take any steps to prepare?
I think people people should always be prepared, but those are not people that are priorities, and those people do have their rights under their applications. All of those people would have the right to see the immigration judge. There's due process in the United States, and those due processes between the hearings and the appeals, they take years. They're not overnight deportations. Those people are not detained and then gone tomorrow. If you have a petition pending, the agency will certainly adjudicate that petition, and you really don't have cause to be concerned unless there's been some recent criminal activity or some other basis that makes you a priority, which you should discuss with your attorney.
That's very helpful. Final thoughts. Is there anything that people should remember?
Yeah, I just think it's important to know your rights and to be calm and to remember that these priorities have been the priorities for decades. We saw under Obama a lot of detention as well, and it's how we talk to each other that also matters. Here at Castro Foden, we're really focused on being direct and being honest with our clients. And it's really damaging to think that you are a priority and to fill your home with fear if you don't have a realistic reason to believe that you're a priority. We're here to help you if you are a priority, and we're also here to take action, not just to sit there and worry, but rather to say what can be done to address this concern, what can be done to ameliorate, to make the situation better, to address the concern that has this family preoccupied. I think that the value of getting legal advice is that it's to know your rights, to have the information, and to take action, and not simply to wait until it's too late to do something. And so there are so many opportunities for people to legalize their status and to be here securely and safely. I would encourage you to seek counsel and to go to people that have experience and hopefully reliable reputation, somebody who can be of assistance to you.
Well,
one more thing.
Oh, sure.
I caution against preparers, notaries, people who are not licensed, and people who have really, no track record in practicing immigration law. I think it's very important to know who you're going to for advice, not the person who's your friend sitting next to you at dinner, not the person that you had a conversation with over coffee. Go to an attorney who has experience, hopefully and specifically in immigration law. It's a highly regulated field of law. And just like you would not prepare your taxes by yourself, or I don't even prepare my taxes by myself, I go to an expert. I think it's essential to receive advice directly from an expert. And hopefully this video is helpful to address the questions, because we've just been receiving so many questions, and these are really the answers that we're giving to our clients, and we hope that it can help you be at ease and it can help answer some of your questions, and feel free to distribute it to your friends who may also need advice. We're here to help you, as are so many other immigration attorneys in the bar. But if you need to get a consultation, our website is decastrofoden.com, and there's a page there to fill out a form for consultation. We just ask you to be patient with us, because we're not robots, and each person takes time in the consultation, and we're attending to each consultation in the order received. We're doing our best for you, as we always do, and we wish you a great day, and thank you very much for listening.
Well, thank you very much. That's all very important and very useful, and thank you everybody for watching.
Thank you, John Mark.